The most powerful way to make creative work is through authentic theft. We are authentic thieves, and we mean this in a very positive way. We're incredibly proud of this. Authentic theft is a method we use to collaborate with others on design work. It is the remix of previously established ideas through materials, places, and people.
So it should be no surprise that we actually stole the term. It couldn't really be any other way. We took the term from Jim Jarmusch, which is a fantastic filmmaker, a US-born filmmaker. And the first design job I ever had, this quote was plastered on the wall, and I would go by it every day, and Jessica saw it too because she would come and work as well. And it essentially boiled down to saying that authenticity is invaluable, but originality is non-existent. As a design student, as an architecture student, to hear that originality is non-existent, you're taken aback by it. But it's so incredibly liberating because it means that you don't have to wait for divine inspiration or individual creativity. You just genuinely have to steal things authentically. So we keep all our work around and let it remix into new things.
And we test authentic theft through design competitions. And all of these design competitions, they operate on a regional, on a national, as well as an international level. And what we find is that as we begin to remix ideas from these various competitions, we are able to establish a pretty efficient workflow, a pretty efficient method of working. And this method of work, it always involves the remix of material, of place, and people.
So what does it mean, remix of material? So one of the things that's most fascinating to us is that you can take very ordinary, discarded, unused things and try to make them extraordinary. Because it's fun, but it also could have some social responsibility to it as well. The majority of the work that we do, we can't hold in our hands because they're not objects. They're spaces, or we try and make spaces. We try and engage the public space, things that people can be in and take a part in being inside of. But the one thing that we can hold in our hand is materials. So we actually work with materials quite closely to see what they can do. So whether it's climbing ropes, whether it's construction fencing, anything that's unusual that we can try and make extraordinary and change the perception of how people see the material, we see as a creative act, as an authentic theft.
And we ask this question at the beginning of each project. So how can we take one material, one single ordinary material, and make it extraordinary? In Minneapolis rope density, we looked at climbing rope. And this was a competition that asked us to design a temporary pavilion for the Minneapolis Convention Center, right out front in the plaza. And so what we decided on was we looked at climbing rope, which is a discarded material. After it develops a dead spot, it is no longer used for rope climbing, but that doesn't make it still strong, it still works. And we decided to repurpose it for architectural purposes. So we began to test it. We stretched it, we hung it, and what we found is that when you build up a density of this multicolored rope, you can make great architectural spaces with it. You can hang it from a frame. You can put it into tension so that when people experience this space, they can walk through this jungle of multicolored rope. They can swing from it, they can pull it, they can jump rope with it. And ultimately, it leads to interesting spaces. And with Orange Obscura, which was also a design for a temporary pavilion in New York City's Governor's Island, we focused on construction fencing. And typically, contractors will use construction fencing to block snow. It's used as a snow guard. And in New York, it's used as a safety mesh. And we actually bought big rolls of this construction fencing, and we started to cut it out. Each member of the team did this. And what we found is that when we were able to cut these small swaths of the material and connect it to itself, we could develop these beautiful cones. And when we put these cones out into the open, they would glow bright orange in the daylight, and then they would sway back and forth in the wind. So our thought is in the openness of Governor's Island, in this open space, the experience of coming up to this pavilion that was on fire with orange was created just by putting a density of this discarded material together.
The drawback to this is that your house and your place of work ends up covered in random materials. And it's hard to explain when people come over. But the cat loves it.
Our cat loves it.
The cat's like, I don't know what these two do, but they do something I like. So it works well. We also get a chance to go dumpster diving for materials that are discarded, especially at construction sites. And if somebody catches you, you say, "It's okay, I'm into architecture." And they go, "All right, we'll take it then." The most recent example of this is the work that we did for the stage here in TEDx. We essentially thought, well, what could we do with a single drinking straw, a single plastic drinking straw? What could we make? Right? What could we do that could actually be an array of X's, that could also be conceived as a straw wall that we could build in these things that we're calling straw bales. The entire wall is built from 20 by 20 straw bales, so we can move it here, take it down, easily transport it. So we essentially came up with something that's 3,600 straws, which is roughly more or less the amount of straws that are available at the student union any day. The people, they weren't too happy with us pointing that out, so it made donations harder. But it also means that we were able to construct and design the nodes that connect the two. So we fabricated and laser cut each one of these that allow us to connect all the straws. So there's 1,200, it leans. Here, this is going to my next point, don't worry, it's not going to fall. We constructed 1,200 of these nodes that connect all the 3,600 straws. We were visiting family and friends in New York this summer, and we saw this amazing plastic structure, and we thought, well, this is a great opportunity for us to remix this kind of fascination with a single material and the idea of triangular diagrids, which is a very typically researched structure that's been around for decades in architecture, and we thought, oh, this could be amazing. We could make a flexible and rigid wall and essentially do something that is rigid and can stand on its own, but it can also bounce and move, which we enjoy. It also plays with the light in different ways. It also means it's about to fall on me. Until you put the whole thing together, you don't really get the rigidity of the entire wall.
And by operating in digital space, we are able to remix place. The fact is that we work with teams and we work with people scattered throughout the country and also in different countries. And of course, this creates great distances. And this is one of the most difficult aspects of our work, is that because it's something that's physical, we really do need to be in the same place. However, in our case, we've been able to shorten those distances through social media. And we found that at its core, social media can set up a great framework for collaboration, and it's also free. And so we've been able to use social media platforms such as Facebook and Google Hangouts to shorten these distances and ultimately to remix the places that we live and work in.
We have to stress the free part.
We do, yes.
Because it's essentially an organizational infrastructure that's free to anyone. It's not just to sharing photos of our cat, which we do a lot. But you can put groups of people together and create amazing things, which I wasn't really even thinking was possible. And that basically leads to the last portion of remix, which is the most immaterial, right? It's not physical, it's people, right? How do we remix people? And it's really one of the most fundamental ones in order to be able to pull off some authentic thievery. You have to be able to make it a collaborative act. Everybody has to be involved in it. So what we do, what we try and do, what we hope to do every single day is expand this network of people that we work with. And we've been very lucky that whenever we bring it up, they say, yeah, let's steal some things. But let's do it together, and let's not be ashamed of it. Let's actually celebrate it because we're making things from it. And that's the one thing that allows us to move past just the idea of the lone genius being the one who makes the work, and the fact that it's made by a group of people, and those people are collaboratively seeking a method of work. So what we'd like everybody to consider is to implement maybe your own version of authentic theft within your creative work. And remember that no idea is really original, and that through focusing on material and using social media to combine people and place, you get to be thieves.
And ultimately, create through making.
Thank you.
Thank you.